The 50mm focal length. It's quite a common one. I mean, there is a reason for the name Nifty 50. However, why is that? What makes this focal length so popular, so useful, so fun? Different focal lengths can give you different results. The 35mm and other wider lenses open the world up to show more scene, to allow for more layered compositions. However, they can often feel empty and chaotic. Meanwhile, the 85mm and other telephoto lenses give you this dramatic, compressed background look. They are great if you just want to focus on the subject, but they make the viewer feel alien, as if they were a spectator that is watching from afar. And then there is the 50mm. It feels as you are actually there. It doesn't feel alien or too chaotic. It's neither too wide nor too tight. It gives you the ability to focus on the subject while also showcasing the scene. And since starting to use it, I learned two main things. I learned to avoid chaos and to be present. As mentioned before, wider lenses can be chaotic, overpowering even. However, the 50mm doesn't have that problem. It forces you to focus more on the subject since you cannot rely on the scene anymore. You need to be simple, specific, and you need to know how to make the subject tell the story and not the scene. But on the other hand, you cannot rely on the subject alone. You have to show some context to what's happening around. After years of using these lenses, I learned how to keep the bokeh in check. And you should too. You can't just obliterate everything that isn't the subject, since you can use texture, light and colors to tell the story. Don't get me wrong though, use f1.8 or any other aperture that you want. They are one of the tools available to us after all, but only use them if they can serve a greater purpose for the image. I know that the way that I describe this focal length is kind of weird, paradoxical even. You can't rely on the scene alone, so you have to focus on the subject, but you cannot rely on the subject alone, so you have to focus on the scene. So which is it? Well, the magical word that makes it make sense is the alone. You can't rely on them alone, they need to coexist. And they need to work together to tell a story that you want, whatever it might be. And this exactly is what makes this focal length so great. You can use lenses that have this focal length for just about anything. Portraits, street, macro or even landscape. The freedom that this focal length brings is amazing. It's a perfect travel lens, at least for me. And as a proof of that, I present all of my photos that I took when I was in Spain. Most of them were shot by a 50mm lens or focal length. And yes, focal length, because I also had my 24-70 with me. And even despite that, I used the 50mm the most, like 95% of times. But what about the other 5%, you might ask? Well, even the photos that I took with the 24-70 were mostly at the 50mm mark. If this doesn't showcase the power of the 50mm, or at least my strong preference for it, I don't know what will. The way that I approach composition with 50mm lenses is rather simple. I look for different perspectives. And obviously, while not exclusive to the 50mm, the composition and their associated feelings were made specifically for this focal length. Or at least they do for me. Shooting from a high angle is an interesting way to approach composition. I don't really see many photographers do this, but maybe I'm just looking in bad places. It's specifically shooting photos as if you were watching from above, as a greater force or power watching others. It can help to highlight how insignificant or weaker the subject is. It also can be used to make the 50mm feel more alien, more lonely, as if you were watching from afar. The eye-level shots are great if you want the viewer to feel as if they are the part of the story, feeling the same emotions, hearing the same sounds, and experiencing the same thing as the subject. To put it simply, it invokes a deeper connection to the subject at hand. Low perspective shots, on the other hand, will give the subject and the foreground a lot of power, can make even the most random of subjects powerful, dramatic, and larger than life. While these things are not exclusive to the 50mm, the simplicity of the focal length allows it to create layered compositions that work well with the subject while also not feeling chaotic or overwhelming. After a couple years of photography, I learned that the most growth that I had as a photographer came from the humble 50mm. Since the beginning, I was subconsciously choosing it as my preferred focal length. And it may sound kind of weird, but it allowed me to see that I still have a lot to learn, and nothing changed in that regard. It also allowed me to discover myself and the environment that I was photographing. But for some reason, a lot of people think that the 50mm is an easy focal length, a stepping stone of sorts. I myself don't believe that this is true, at least not fully. Yes, it is a basic prime lens. It's not hard to get a nice photo with it. But it's not so easy to get a good one. And this is what we should be striving for. This is what this video I made was about, which if you haven't, please consider watching it and maybe even subscribing. But to put it simply, nice photos are easy, good ones are not. And also, if this is your first prime lens, it will most likely frustrate you and make you a better photographer. Or maybe not. Maybe it will be the 35, 85 or even 28mm. What works for me may not work for you, so if you have a zoom lens, please see at what focal length you shoot and then decide. I don't know how to end this video, so bye.